All right, I am thrilled today to be interviewing Joan Marie. So welcome, Joan Marie. It's fantastic to have you here. And let's get straight into it. Tell us who are you and what do you do?
Oh, yay, Helen. I just have to say, I feel like calling you Miss Vitality or no.
Miss Vitality. I love it.
Or hello, Tigger, right?
Oh yeah, Tigger. So shall I give the little backstory about
Tigger? Oh yes,
for listeners and viewers. By the way, so you may be listening to this on the Sasaga podcast. You may be watching this on somewhere on social media, on YouTube maybe. So the Tigger story is that we actually met as accountability partners in an international mastermind, and we both have this like great energy when we first met, and we started talking about Tigger, like our favorite character in Winnie the Pooh, and so we both call each other Tigger. So that's why you might hear references to Tiggerness and vitality. All right, so tell us more, apart from being a Tigger, my Tigger accountability partner, who are you, Joan, and what do you do?
All right, my name is Joan Marie. I'm a visionary artist, and I create art that inspires people to remember who they are. So things that you love, things that bring out your passions. So that's my goal.
All right, and you can see, for those of you watching the video, you can see right behind me the beautiful, beautiful artwork that Joan did for me, and we can talk more about that a little bit later on as well. And if you're just listening to the podcast, you'll be able to see on social media. We'll put some videos and some photos up as well so that you can see this, because it is amazing. I'm just so thrilled to receive that. All right, so word of the year, Joan. What is your word of the year?
If I had to pick one, it's focus.
And that's kind of funny, isn't it? If I had to pick one, it's focus, because you have so many
how do I focus on one word? So, and of course, I have to break focus into many layers. We can't just settle with one word. So imagine focusing. Focus in the moment, to be present in the moment. And when you're present in the moment, you're not thinking about the past or the future. And that means that you are engaged in what you're doing, which also means your feelings are connected. It's kind of multiple, you know what I mean? It's like if you're focused and you're able to stay focused, it means that you have a feeling, passionate connection to, or at least you've developed it, like if you're doing something you don't necessarily love, but you've developed a skill to say, okay, I don't necessarily love this task, but I have shifted my attention to loving it in some way so where I can stay focused to get it done. And when you're focused, you just are in a better place. But focused with good feelings.
Focused with good feelings.
Yeah. So be aware of your feelings while you're being focused, because for me, it's all about feelings.
Right. And a lot of the time people are thinking about the past and things that didn't go well, or worrying about the future. And so there may be feelings attached to it, but they're not good feelings.
And the other thing is pushing. When you're not focused, it's because you're thinking of what I didn't do or what I should do, and you're anxious, and you're somewhere else. And being somewhere else means you're not happy with where you are. And if you're not happy with where you are, you can't get much done, because, because your mind's jumping around about either, what I should be doing or what I could have done or what I did, and your mind's jumping around. So it's like you're just spinning your wheels and you're getting nothing accomplished.
Right. So what made you choose this word for this year?
Oh boy, because of business. The business of art. Like I am totally able to focus when I do my art. I work in silence, and I just become one with my art, and I can just spend literally 9 hours straight. I mean, stop to eat. Oops, I forgot. I love drawing and painting and creating my art. I just get totally in the zone, totally focused. But the business of art is a whole other story. So while I'm trying to do the business tasks, I have found that I'm wishing I were drawing or painting or thinking I'm not good at this, or, I wish someone else were doing it. I wish I didn't have to, my mind is jumping to all these places. And then I'm like, half an hour goes by and go, I still haven't gotten this one business task done. See how lousy I am? And then I beat myself up, and, it just gets bigger and bigger and worse and worse. So I was like, well, just, if you can just get in the zone, just like you do with your art, and I know I have to create an image like that I love business. And, like if you really hate a certain task, you either should get somebody else to do it, or if you just really cannot do that, you must change your attitude towards it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Or don't do that task. Maybe there's a different task that you should be doing that you could replace it with. I'm serious. I found a few tasks and I'm like, well, everybody does this in business, but I'm like, wait a minute. Do I really have to, with my unique me, the way I run my business for me, uniquely me? I'm not following somebody else's rules, how they made a million. I'm following, I've learned you have to follow your own rules. You have to create your own rules for you.
Right.
So get creative.
Yeah. And I love this because you can apply it to the corporate world as well. Many of the listeners and viewers are working in a corporate environment, so they may feel like, oh, well, I don't have that flexibility. I can't so much pick and choose what tasks I do. But as you say, if it's something that you really do need to do, change your attitude about it. Look for what you do enjoy in that, and go from there. But at the same time, I think as well what you bring up is really important, because there's that potential to actually question, do I really need to be doing this? And talk to your boss about it, because maybe there's a more efficient, maybe it doesn't even need to be done, or maybe there's a more efficient way to do it. Maybe there's someone else who can do it better. I think that kind of questioning.
Or a more creative way to do it.
Creative way of doing it. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. I love that. So
I think those are the signs, when you're really frustrated about something, rather than just stay frustrated about it, say, wait a minute, I'm getting a message, figure this out. There's a solution to every single problem. So this is telling me I need to, I choose a different attitude, or get creative, or, choose a different, anyway, this is time to stop and think about it, think it through, find a new way.
Right. And I love how we've got the grandfather clock chiming in the background, telling us this is a really important message. If something is a struggle for you, if you're not happy with it, well, think about it in a different way, and start to then feel about it in a different way. Yeah, I love that. So confidence is a topic that many of the Sassaka podcast listeners are interested in, something that people want to build. Can you tell us about some of your experiences with confidence and building confidence in your life? So for those of you who can't see, Joan is actually fanning herself now, because this is a hot topic.
Oh my gosh. I mean, lack of self-esteem and lack of confidence has been my burden. And, to overcome it. And people will look at me and look at my art and go, how can you not be confident? And as years went by and my art did get, I'll say, incredibly good. And, because I worked really
incredibly
hard.
good.
Well, I'll say it. I'll finally just say it, but I still, there's the other grandfather clock. But even when my skill got better and better and master level, I still had that bad habit of being insecure. And, so I had to analyze all these levels, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I don't know, where do I start? Can I start with the Michelangelo story?
Tell us your Michelangelo story. Yeah.
So I'm 19. I didn't know what I was going to do in my life. My
years old, right?
My artistic talent was above average, but not like top. So I didn't know. Anyway, I went to see Michelangelo, the Sistine Ceiling. Michelangelo's Sistine Ceiling is spiritual. And I saw that, and it was like I had an out-of-body experience. I just swooned, and I just drank it in, and I couldn't see anything. I was just feeling, I just became one with this ceiling. It's so hard to describe. It was such a powerful, powerful message. And I said to myself, if art is that powerful, I must be a part of it. And I must create art that adds positive energy to the world. So here I am, 19. I said, yes, I now know my purpose. So I was all excited and high energy, went to college, went to the right, very upper level art college. And as a sophomore, I was working really, really hard to get good. And a teacher said, Joan, you really shouldn't be an artist. He's like a really powerful art teacher, an artist, powerful artist. And he said, you really shouldn't be an artist. There's 50,000 starving artists in New York City alone, and you don't want to be one of them. He said, you are not creative, and you really should find another profession. You should be a home economics major. That was back in the day. We're talking, oh my gosh. So I left the room, got tears in my eyes, came back out, and I said, is creativity something that you can learn, or do you just have to be born with it? And he said, you just have to be born with it, and I'm sorry. In other words, sorry, you weren't born. So I just, you have no idea how bad, I didn't say this to him, I said it to myself, you have no idea how badly I want to be an artist. So then my whole purpose, and these negative moments do serve a purpose. It gave me more adrenaline to work harder at my skills. And I got better and better and better and better and better until I got into graduate school because of my skill level was so high. And, I proved that I could, be good, like I could improve my skills. The creativity was still, like I was still blocked. And it was because I kept hearing him insulting me. So when you hear, we don't embody these things unless we believe it ourselves. Like if somebody says, oh, something about you is whatever, you don't take it in unless you already kind of agree with them. Because if otherwise you just go, well, I don't know what your problem is, but I'm fine, like, sorry, you're having a bad day saying that weird thing to me, but I really took it in because I didn't think I was good enough. And so I kept hearing his voice. So I was told once, so I became very hyper, driven to work hard, work at my skill, and my skill got good, but my creativity was still blocked. And I found, listen to this, they said being hyper, which means a lot of us pushing too hard, trying to get somewhere, pushing too hard, working too much. You are not happy with who you are. You're not happy with who you are because you're anxious to be someone else or somewhere else or at some other level or be, so I wasn't happy with my skill level. So I was pushing and you never get there with that attitude, with that energy, with that hyper energy. You can't get there from here. You have to love yourself for who you are right now. And I just went, oh my gosh, I have to love myself now. I'm not that creative. Like, how can I love myself? I see my skill has gotten really good, but there's still things I'm not good enough at. How can I love myself? And, but I had to do it. When I found out that's the law, that's life's law. Everybody needs to understand that. And so I drew about being peaceful and stop being so hyper and, slow down. And then you have to work at breaking the habit, of being hyper and that habit of putting yourself down. So in general, that was the big lessons, some of the big lessons that I learned.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that. I mean, it's something that personally resonates for people who've been listening to me or following me. That I have a history of being a huge overachiever and the pressured people pleaser. And this is something that I've been working on over the years. And I'm really encouraging other women in business, especially, to look at, your the way you're thinking, the way you're feeling, the way you're behaving, and look at it in a different way. Because absolutely, Joan, as you say, it's just like push, 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 and then there's never any real sense of satisfaction then. So yeah.
Yeah. So other things that I realized is, I was doing different kinds of business in art, and they would fail, and then they'd fail, and then they'd fail. And I'd look at the perspective, after they failed, and I was like, well, it always moved me to the next effort, another type of business to try. But I realized, number one, I was pushing too hard. When you're pushing too hard, you can't get to who you really are. What are your values? Stop and say, is the business and the art I'm doing right now relating to my values? It was about pushing too hard. I know I still hadn't quite gotten that down, and I still hadn't quite gotten loving myself down. But in the effort to make money or to make business work, I started veering away from what really matters to me, my values. And so you have to stop. When things fail, that's the huge wake-up call to stop and analyze what you're doing again and say, am I being true to what do you really want? What really matters in your life? What makes you feel good? Is that business you were doing, does it really make you feel good? Does it reflect your values, your passions? And so when I stopped and looked at some of that, I was like, wow, I was doing that business just thinking I could sell, or, because things were starting, and I won't go into all those things, but, that general lesson of, stop and study and look at your values.
So this is something that I'm guessing many listeners, people watching this, they're busy with day-to-day life. They've got a lot of pressure at work to get things done. There are so many demands in the corporate world. There's maybe family demands to deal with as well. And I know a lot of women, especially who I work with, they want to do something different, be different in a way, but don't seem to have that time to reflect. What are your thoughts around that?
You have to. If you don't, you're just years are going to go by, and you're going to go, what did I do? You're going to live in that regret thing, and we're not allowed to regret, so stop and say, I'm not going to regret. I have to stop, even if it's 5 minutes. We can all stop for 5 minutes and just, jot some notes down, let your hand fluidly write, or, just feel yourself for a moment. If you're we all have 5, 10, 15 minutes that we can stop. You just have to.
Yeah.
If your life is important to you, if your happiness is important to you, you're not going to get anywhere. Your life will not get better if you don't stop and reflect. I mean, as far as, happiness and a sense of feeling good about what you're doing, because, how many people spend 10 years at a career or 50 years at a career and just go, wow, I never did what I loved,
Yeah. And then also it's the impact on the people around as well. It's kind of, it impacts the people at work, and it impacts family. Yeah.
And, talking about, can I insert this? Okay, a job. I decided to be an art teacher. I not to go into the stories because I was a full-time artist, and then I decided to be a teacher so I could be free to do art that I wanted to do and not put the money around it. As a teacher, I could do art every night, every weekend, all summer long, and I was free to do whatever. And I didn't care if it sold or not. And so I could really be free and creative and experiment and not be concerned. And I had it in my heart. I had the personality of a teacher. So, I loved teaching in the beginning. And then all of a sudden, after a couple of years, I was like, the kids didn't really want to be there. That was my impression. They didn't really want to be there. And so I was like, why am I here teaching when I have all this passion for what I'm doing and they don't want to be? Anyway, I didn't like my job. So if you don't like your job, I was driving to school and listening to self-help tapes, which I do every day, back then especially, every minute, self-help tapes, and on the way to school, as I'm thinking, I'm going to have to quit this job. I can't take it. I listened, and it said, when you don't like what you're doing, you have a choice. You can quit your job and find a better one that makes you feel happier or better. Or if it's, if you decide you want to stay, you can't just stay and be unhappy. You have to change your attitude and give it your all.
Yeah.
You have to give it your all, because when you start not liking something, you back off and you start half-heartedly doing your job, and then it multiplies. Then you hate it even more because it's not fulfilling in any way. So I stopped and I studied my values, and my two top values were spirituality and creativity. And I was like, wait a minute, I decided my teaching job was a good paying job and a beautiful district and really great kids. And I just changed. I said, I'm going to stay in this job. So I was to give it my all to teach them as creatively as I can, to just express, to develop my own creativity through them, my creative teaching, and my spirituality of learning how to love all human beings. Every child that's in that room, you just love them for who they are, no matter what happened to them, and the fight in the hall, or the horrible morning, or the, no food in the morning, or, whatever angry mood or whatever attitude they're from. You just love them for where they are. And boy, that exercise of practicing my spirituality with them and my creativity,
right.
I developed a class called Creativity, which is about creating your life, not art. I mean, create your life, because we can create our lives, so I ended up loving my job because I got to teach this class, and, and I just, anyway, so you have a choice. Give it your all, and then your job feeds you, and you grow and you're happy, or quit your job. So like that, I learned a big, but back to values, right?
Yeah. So I love this, because I hear a lot or I increasingly hear of people who are realizing that they're not feeling, completely fulfilled in their work. And they are now taking that step and going and finding a new position, which is something that, some years ago, especially here in Japan, people would not do. People would stay with the job for a long time. And, with women, it's like stay there until you get married or you have kids or whatever. But things are changing. And so we're seeing more and more, like, for example, women's in the Sasuga VIP coaching program are changing jobs, or, they're getting promotions and things like that. And what you say is, so I hear the success stories of people who go and find something new, but what you're talking about is you're staying in the same actual job, and then you're looking at it in a completely different way by asking yourself what your values are. Yeah. So what about if people think, oh, well, my values are this and this, and how does that I can't bring those values together into a job that makes sense?
Well, yeah, well, then maybe you're really in the wrong job then, if you really, but, sometimes you have to push yourself, it's like the first top 3 answers isn't always your solution. If you sit and force yourself to come up with more creative ways to make it work, that's if you feel like you really want to stay. You've got reasons like, oh, like you're making the excuses. I have to be miserable because I have to stay in this job. No, well, okay, if you decide you have to stay in this job, you have to not be miserable. You have to get out of your misery. So you have to change your vision towards that. And sometimes, like, you have to push 7 or 8 reasons down to the last reason, your different ways of looking at your job.
Okay.
Ways of looking.
Have you got any, because this is actually interesting, this is a question that did come up in the Sasuga VIP Women's Coaching Program, about how to see things from different perspectives, because we were doing an exercise about looking at different perspectives, and some of them were saying, okay, well, I can get as far as 3 different perspectives, but I can't see any further than that. Do you have any thoughts around that? I'm just throwing it at you.
Off the top of my head, that sometimes takes a little time, to push and creative, like now that I have experienced more creativity, I know that, like with my students, like the first 3 responses are not always your strongest. Pushing and pushing, sometimes it's that last one. and that ninth one or the seventh one. And pushing is not easy, and you think 3 is all there is, but that's like saying life is what we see, Life is so much more expansive, and we have much more creativity naturally in our minds. By the way, we all have creativity, all of us do. We just might have it blocked because of insecurity or being told that we don't, or just blocking it. But we all have creativity, so exercising. I can't think of something off the top of my head right now, like as an example, but it takes time to push sometimes.
Well, so I think that's maybe the key. Is it's not a case of just giving up right then and there. And what you said earlier on as well is sometimes if you're pushing, then it doesn't come. But maybe it's about giving time and just sort of leaving open to possibility. And then because for me certainly it's like go in the shower, ideas, and so sometimes just from a change of environment, ideas can come as well, right?
Yeah, just ask. I need more solutions. Help me. Even if I find it out tomorrow, like you said later, just ask. Ask and you shall receive, right?
Right. Yeah. Love it.
It's true.
Fantastic. So what else do you want to share with the Sasaga podcast listeners and our viewers today?
I just with the student once we were talking about values and passions, and we did all this work to get to their top 2 things, and I'm not going to go through all that, but we did a lot of listing our passions and listing our values, and then listing the 2 top things. And this one student, her 2 top things was, I want to be a nurse. I just know I want to be a nurse. I want to be a caregiver. And then I love history. I love to study history and to talk about history and think about history. And she said, and I said, wow, those are 2 very different things, huh? She said, yeah. And I said, well, why don't we give that some thought? Relax. Let's think about that. Can we get creative with a job? So we sat and I said, what about if you were a caregiver that as you went into your patient, you gave them a little tidbit of history, like you shared some little history, like something, because you want to talk to the patient, right? And then you've got this reputation as being, oh, that's that nurse who knows history stuff. And so some person who needed private care and loved history would hire you. You become a special, unique, caretaker that has knowledge of history, and they want you around because you can share this interesting information along with caring. And so, it's like, who would ever think those 2 things could be combined, right?
Right.
So if you think of, if you get creative, you can create demand for your unique self and still keep your 2 passions alive.
I love that. And that gives me another idea as well for what we were talking about earlier, is if you don't have the idea that comes to you, or you're not seeing as many perspectives, asking someone else, because in that case, that student asked you and you came up with the idea. So just talking about it can bring in more ideas as well. Wonderful. I love it. Oh, so great. So I just wanted to mention a little bit about the eye energy portrait. So this is just one of the types of the many types of fabulous art that you do, isn't it?
Oh, here I've got a lion. Look, it's way too big.
I didn't even know that was at the site. Okay, so everybody's listening. You have to see the video. Oh my goodness, I didn't even know that was there. So gorgeous, and look at the gold. Yeah. Oh wow. What I want to do as well is post share some of your videos, Joan, because just seeing those videos of you working is just absolutely beautiful. It's mesmerizing. It's so beautiful. And for me, when I learned about the amazing work that you're doing, Joan, I was like, oh yeah, I absolutely need my own eye energy portrait, and you created this absolute masterpiece for me, which now what I love about it is that it's I can move it around, and I can sit it, if I'm working in a different place, I can actually sit it there and get the inspiration from it. So it's just absolutely wonderful. And we'll also share the video of when you gave that to me and I opened it up, and
yes.
I was just like, oh, it was just so emotional to open that up. And the piece of art that, for those of you who are watching the video, that you can see above the eye energy portrait, that's actually just your practice piece, right?
Yeah, experimenting to, yeah.
I love that.
I did that several times, you know, yeah.
So wonderful. And you mentioned as well about just the power of having things around you to inspire you.
Yeah, so now I am totally so high about what I'm doing because I am using my values. I'm expressing my spirituality through my art, and the powerful Michelangelo's spirituality that I was told at 19 that I need to do, and then I got waylaid, you know, between insecurity and trying other directions and all these things. But now I've come back to the powerful spiritual messages because now I'm sharing, you know, what do you love? What are your passions? What turns you on? And then I help people, remember, because we need to have, even if it's a pretty color pillow or a picture that reminds you of something, anything that inspires you, you know, color, objects, symbols, things that inspire you, helps you remember who you are and what matters and what lights you up. It's very important to have these things around you.
Oh, I love it. That is such a great place to close the interview today. Yeah, have things around you that light you up and remind you of who you are. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joan, for being our fabulous guest on the Sasaga podcast. It's been wonderful. It's been totally inspiring. And I'm looking forward to hearing what everybody thinks about this as well. Thank you so much.
I love you, Helen. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. My Tigger.
Bye.
Bye.